So when I was in high school, I had the misfortune of being dragged by my then girlfriend straight into her mom's basement. We were about 17 years old, and she dragged me down there against my will to watch this godforsaken movie called The Notebook. And I remember in The Notebook, there was this scene where you have this couple, they have this romance going on, they have this situationship going on. And the guy says to the girl, "What do you want? What do you want? What do you want?" And she's like, "I don't know. I don't know. I don't know." And so it's not always obvious, right? What it is that we really want. It's not always self-evident. It seems like it should be self-evident, and some things are, right? Like if you're hungry, you're going to want food, you're going to want to eat, but it's not always self-evident. And the problem is when you go online, right? You browse the World Wide Web, you go on Google, you go on YouTube, and you watch some videos. You always get all of this contradictory advice. You might watch a video on stoicism where it's like, we need to delay gratification and we need to be happy with our lot. And then you have Epicureanism where it's like, eat, drink, and be merry. For tomorrow we're going to die. Enjoy. What's the point of being healthy all the time if you die in a car crash anyways? Now you lived your whole life without having had ice cream, you idiot, right? And so there's all of these contradictory ideas about what it is we should want and how we can truly become happy, right? And this problem gets way worse once you start reading some books, right? And if you read Plato, right, you're like, okay, these ideas make sense. This is cool. And then you read Aristotle, and it's like, okay, well, these are also good ideas, but they contradict some of the ideas from the other guy. And then you read, let's say, Spinoza, or you read Immanuel Kant, or you read, any of these philosophers. And I'm not talking about small-time philosophers. I'm talking about big-time philosophers. They disagree with each other. They disagree with each other on a lot of the fundamentals and what it is we truly want, and how it is that we can truly be happy, right? And so what does all this have to do with procrastination anyway? Well, for you to be able to want to do something, you have to have a reason to want to do it. In other words, you're going to need a clear and fixed vision, right? Let's say you're a painter, for example, and you're doing a painting. Let's say you're doing a painting of a woman, a beautiful woman. And you get halfway through the painting and you're like, you know what? Never mind. I don't want to paint a woman anymore. I want to paint a cat. But you're already halfway through the painting. So you kind of have to paint over it and figure all the stuff out. And then you're halfway through drawing the cat. And you're like, you know what? I don't want to draw a cat. I want to draw a donkey. And now your canvas is getting all messed up. Time is passing by. You're running out of life, basically. And then you're drawing that. And you're like, you know what? I don't want to draw that. And then this gets really discouraging for the painter. He's like, my canvas is getting messy. I'm wasting paint. I'm wasting energy. And he throws his hands in the air. And this is discouraging. This demotivates our painter. And because our painter is demotivated, he's going to want to start procrastinating more. Now, here's the problem, right? Let's say our painter paints something and he finishes his painting and he looks at it and he's like, why did I want to paint this again anyway? And he's just not happy with the result of his efforts, right? So, okay, let me back up a little bit here, right? In G.K. Chesterton's book, Orthodoxy, he writes about three people: Tolstoy, who was a novelist; Nietzsche, who was a philosopher; and Joan of Arc, who was part of the French Revolution. And he says what's interesting about these three people is Tolstoy was an aristocrat. He was born into wealth and he never needed to work a day in his life. And this kind of gave him an existential crisis. And so he kind of peered at poverty from afar. And he thought that poverty was this admirable thing, but he never really engaged in it. And he just kind of wrote books and then he died. Nietzsche, on the other hand, Nietzsche despised poverty. What Nietzsche liked was will. He's like, we need to go out there and we need to do things in the world. We need to be painters and we need to be, architects. And he talks about the Ubermensch a lot, kind of his idea of a Superman, which is, someone who rises above the monotony of life and is able to create awesome architects and awesome artifacts, right? Whether it be paintings or whether it be achievements, whatever it is, it's someone who kind of extends their will into the world. This is Nietzsche's idea of the Übermensch. And so he then goes on to talk about Joan of Arc. He says the thing about Joan of Arc is, unlike Tolstoy, who grew up rich, she really did grow up poor. She was born into poverty. And unlike Nietzsche, who, for all we know, didn't have the courage to confront the cow, Joan of Arc went out there and she fought battles, and she had the courage to go out there and really risk her life and, get her hands dirty and put on some armor and grab a spear and get at it. So she had the poverty that Tolstoy only admired and wrote about, and she had the will that Nietzsche also kind of just wrote about. She embodied the best of these two men. And she didn't get too caught up in either extreme, right? And like Chesterton says, like a lightning bolt, Joan of Arc reached out and achieved what it was that she wanted to do. And so Joan of Arc had a clear and a fixed vision, and it didn't change, and she was able to sustain it for long enough to actually reach her goal. Unlike our painter, who continued to change his mind about what he wanted to do. I can relate to this painter. I can absolutely relate to this painter. This is something I've done in my own life quite a bit, and it's frustrating, right? And that's the problem with a lot of philosophy and secular philosophy. You kind of run on this hamster wheel where one day you're a Nietzschean, the next day you're a Tolstoyan, the next day you're a Spinozan, the next day you're an Aristotelian. And it makes it difficult, right, to really know what to strive for. And if you don't know what you really, really want, then you'll never really get there. I mean, it's just common sense. And it's not the reason, it's not your logic, it's not your mind that can really create a fixed vision. What's required to create a clear and fixed vision for what it is you want to create with your time on earth, you need passion, right? It requires passion. That's why all these thoughts can't really get you there. And so earlier today, right, when I woke up, I had a quick discussion with one of my friends. His name is Michael, and he was talking about revenge. And he says, the thing about revenge is that it's bad. This is what Michael was saying, right? He said, revenge is bad. And the best revenge is success. And I thought about that. And I said, okay, so I see where you're coming from, Michael. But if your fuel, right, if your fuel is revenge, you're not really thinking about the outcome, right? Success was kind of just given as an outcome. Like, we want to make a ton of money or whatever, right? This is kind of what he has in his mind when he says success. And he's saying, I'm not going to think about that. It may or may not be the thing that's going to make me happy, but I'm going to use, my feelings of anger or my feelings of wanting to avenge someone to reach success. And I said, well, I mean, that's nice, but what if the thing you want isn't really the thing that you want, right? And it reminds me of some of the most ancient stories, right? If you take a look at the Buddha, Siddhartha, right? Siddhartha was born as a prince. He inherited everything. He was born with everything he would ever want. And like Tolstoy, this kind of threw him into an existential crisis. And so he had to go out and, run away from the kingdom and, try to attain to enlightenment. And there is this other story of these two young men named Max and Dom, Maximus and Demadius, thousands of years ago, who showed up in some random desert in Egypt at some random monastery to become monks. And they were trained to become monks. And little did the, sages at the monastery at that time know that Max and Dom were actually the sons of the Roman emperor, right? So why does this keep happening? Why is it that all of these people who, are born with a silver spoon in their mouths, why throughout our ancient tales, time and time again, we find this theme of the rich dude saying, well, I'm still not happy. This still isn't enough. Why is that happening, right? And so, it begs the question, what is it that we should seek? What is it What is that vision that is so worthy to attain to that we can hold it fixed in our mind for long enough to have the passion to go out and get it. And we want it so badly because we think it's so meaningful that here we're coming to the main question, that we can't even fathom procrastinating because of how badly we want it. And I'll leave that as some food for thought. And on this channel, we talk about big ideas. We talk about the good, the beautiful, and the true. If you like this video, hit all of the YouTube buttons, and we will see you guys in the next one. Peace.